Hello, Ren of Taurus Rising, back with you again for our weekly wellness with tarot. And we are continuing our Fool's Journey series. And today we are moving on to the star, which is really funny that my earrings, I feel like, really match. I didn't plan that. And this, another sidebar, this necklace is by a jewelry maker who kind of models each of her pieces after a tarot card, and this was model. It's called the Star. That was like the name of that piece. Anyway, so I love the alignment there. But back to our main mission, which is to talk about tarot, and we are at our Star card. So last week we had the Tower, and in the Fool's Journey, the Fool's going on their journey and discover this experience of having these shakeups in life, that sometimes there's these things that happen out of nowhere. Sometimes, it's a big loss or a change. That could be anything from a breakup to a job loss to natural disaster. And these are things you can't control. And sometimes the universe brings us these things to shake things up for us because we're not on our authentic path. Whereas, of course, sometimes just things happen, and I don't believe that anyone manifests or calls in destruction or death or loss or really bad things. Just sometimes things happen, and we're forced to change course. And the Star is the card that comes after. So the Star represents sort of like the okay, now that the dust has settled. When I was first learning about tarot, I really started to think about the Star as like, oh, it's now transformation on the other side. Things are happy now, but it's not that simple. Sometimes it's just, okay, now things are a little settled, but it's settling in and integrating into a new reality. And sometimes it comes with grief and sadness. So like maybe the shakeup and the drama of the Tower is over, but there's still maybe some sadness. Or there's just like getting your feet on the ground. And there's a lot of symbolism in this card. Like we have a nude person here, which represents vulnerability, kind of being stripped of, maybe of material things, but also maybe a need to be vulnerable and express yourself, or like being able to drop the mask because you can't wear the mask anymore, and maybe being more authentic as a result of what you've gone through. And also, of course, there's water here, which to me is about emotions, the subconscious. And then a very vast sky with stars, which to me, that this card also makes me think of humility. Like we are so small in this scheme of the universe. Like think about how big and expansive it is. And that things happen to us, and things aren't always going to be perfect sometimes. And the world doesn't really revolve around you, and then something big happens and you realize really how, in the scheme of things, everyone's important and also everyone's not, if that makes sense. So that's one of those dualities of everyone is important, has an impact and matters, but also we're all just, there's lots of us and we all are our own journey, and no one's more important than the other one. So that's what I kind of think about when I see like the sky. It's humility of knowing, okay, well, I have a place in this world, but it's not all about me, and kind of seeing a bigger picture meaning in whatever is happening. This big thing happened, and now how can I create meaning out of that? How can I be of service and contribute to? Like that's part of, I think, this card too. So just to give you some key words, I think this card is sort of renewal, transformation, hope, but it's not just bright hope, yay, happy. It's hope and having faith and trust that, okay, well, we're moving forward. I'm still alive. Things can get better. So hope and renewal, but not necessarily an overly unrealistically optimistic way, in more of a grounded, hopeful way. And then I think sometimes when this card shows up reversed, I feel inspired to talk about that. That can also be a need for like actually looking at the hard things, experiencing the hard things versus like spiritual bypassing bad things. Like, oh, well, let's make meaning out of it. You don't want to quickly jump to making meaning out of it. You need to feel the feelings. So part of this card is like grief, renewal, but also like allowing yourself the depth of the feeling of whatever has happened now that you're on the other side of it. So I feel like I've talked enough about the Star. Now we're actually going to pull our card for the reading. So asking the tarot, where do we need star energy? Where can star energy bring us wisdom, guidance in our lives? And as usual, I'm using the Radiant Rider-Waite deck for the Major Arcana card. And then today I've decided I'm going to use the Mystical Moments deck again because I've been really liking it. And we'll use that one for our reading. So where do we need the star energy? Right? Star meaning like renewal, knowing that things are different now, but finding meaning and hope without bypassing the feelings that need to be felt, the lessons that need to be learned. Also, I think the star card is about the beginnings of integration of whatever the new story is. Okay, so I'm feeling called to pull this card, actually. The Six of Cups. It's a cute little card. So we've got a person here, a very, a giant figure there, and then 3 children with balloons. And the traditional card, the Six of Cups, it's like it's got 2 kids, and there's sitting around 6 cups. And it's a card about childhood nostalgia, like childhood and positive memories, like kind of warm memories of childhood. And so this definitely feels like a very like playful card in this particular card, where there's the balloons and kind of whimsical, obviously, because we've got this like giant and then these kids here. It's very beautiful too, out in nature. So this is making kind of me think of, it's really inner child. If you're familiar with this, you may or may not be familiar with this therapy, counseling kind of framework called internal family system. Sorry, if you've seen the movie Inside Out, the idea that we all have like these different parts, like different aspects, different personalities to ourselves, different aspects to ourselves, not necessarily multiple personalities, but different aspects of ourselves. And I can't help but think about that when I see this card, because it's almost like the large, maybe perhaps this is your higher self. And then these are like the maybe younger parts, and you can see they're all different heights, so perhaps different ages. And so it kind of makes me think of, okay, childhood memories. Are there some that are maybe not so good, or maybe harder or cringy, that you need to think about and heal? Renewal, heal, which is what the star card is about. It's about integration, healing after an upheaval. I'm going to, of course, quote or reference To Be Magnetic again, because they're a program I really like, and they're doing a inner child kind of manifestation end of year challenge. So that's kind of perfect timing. Another alignment there, about returning to your magic and what makes you you and authentic. And so in this reading, this is kind of in alignment with that perhaps there's some sort of aspect of you or a memory or something harder from your childhood, or maybe even positive that you just have neglected to tend to, especially during the holiday times. There's a lot of memories and history and seeing family, or just things associated with this time of year. Like you might go into a store and see a thing that you remember from past Christmases, past holidays, or movies, those classic holiday movies that maybe perhaps have come to be associated with something in your past or in your history. So what I'm really getting from this reading is, where do you need hope, renewal, the energy of the star, integration, really like sitting with what has happened. There could be some sort of memory or aspect of a younger version of you that needs some looking at, needs some attention, or just needs some processing that is still weighing on you, but you don't know. There's a saying, what you resist persists. And if the more you run away from something, the more it will stay with you and weigh you down. You may not even realize it. So this is an invitation to do some sort of maybe inner work, or revisiting younger version of you, or perhaps you even have kids or nieces or nephews, or kids in your family that maybe you've been wanting to spend more time with and not wanting to let time get away. So maybe more of an on the nose interpretation of this is like some sort of renewal and reconnection, rebuilding with maybe young people in your life, be them your own kids or family members, or kids of like close family members or something that you haven't connected with, and that you're missing out on that and you don't want to miss out. So there's kind of two interpretations. It could be more inner child stuff, your stuff, or actually connecting with kids in your life, maybe renewing a relationship that has drifted away or hasn't maybe deepened in a way that you want. So there you go. And now I'm going to pull another card, as I like to do. Okay, here we go. What do we got? Oh, interesting. We've already visited this card actually in our Fool's Journey series, but we haven't seen it from this deck. We have the Hanged Man reversed, and it looks upright when it's reversed actually, but it's reversed. So the Hanged Man, as if you remember from when we talked about that earlier in the Fool's Journey, the Hanged Man is sort of about its surrender. It's sort of like this tension point where there's like nothing else to do but surrender and waiting perhaps for divine timing, or just like the other pieces to come together. But this is reversed, so there's like a resistance to surrender, perhaps forcing solutions. Or another extreme version could be like, oh, well, more passivity. So when we have the Hanged Man reversed, that could be sort of either a forcing solutions, which isn't surrender, or we'll just see what happens, which isn't surrender because that's kind of more sitting on your hands. True surrender is doing what you can do and then letting it go and detaching from the outcome and just waiting, because you've done your part and now you have to wait for everything else to happen. That's true surrender. Anything on the other end of that is not. It's either just giving up and, waiting for things to happen for you, which will probably lead to a tower moment, by the way. Or the other one is like forcing solutions and, making it worse. Or tying the knot even tighter. So kind of bringing all of these cards together. Our star card was our major arcana card, our Fool's Journey card. It's about renewal, hope, integrating, feeling the feelings, dust settling, getting grounded post like upheaval, post rock bottom or shake up. And where do we need that in our lives? We needed that sort of related to childhood memories, integrating past stuff, inner child healing, or healing relationships with young people in your life, like on a more of a concrete external version. Reconnecting to a younger version of self, or the young people in your life that you've drifted from. And a need for healing. Where else do we need that? Is surrendering, not forcing solutions, but not being passive about it. So if there's an area, we'll just use the inner child stuff for simplicity. If there's like a part of you that you need to kind of integrate or heal, or a past thing that you need to look at, you don't want to either like go too hard at it, or because that actually becomes intellectualizing, where you're just kind of thinking about it and actually nothing's actually happening. Or you also don't want to avoid it. So a need for like an openness and surrender to what's going to happen versus needing to either avoid or go too hard at it, if that makes sense. So just, kind of summarize this in a more concise way. The tarot, or the star card energy, is for a younger healing, with a younger part of yourself, or with the younger people in your life, maybe relationships that have distanced. And there's also a need to do your part and surrender versus force solutions or be overly passive. So that, I just wanted to say that one more time to tie it up. All right, I hope that was helpful for you. We're going into the solstice. So this weekend in the Northern Hemisphere, we are going into the winter solstice. going into winter. So I hope that you have a restorative solstice if you're in the northern hemisphere. Also, if you're in the southern hemisphere and going into another season. And I will continue the Fool's Journey series next week. I'll see y'all then.